So for visual effects for Triangle, probably the largest and most challenging sequence in the movie was the storm sequence. The film was shot in studios and on location on the sunny epic coastlines of southern Queensland in Australia, and that location provided the perfect backdrop for the majority of ocean scenes in the movie, which call for seascapes of an almost eerie otherworldliness stretching into infinity. In midwinter in that part of the world, which is when the film was shot, has pretty consistent weather. I mean, practically every day is sunny, cloudless and calm, which is perfect for Triangle. The storm sequence, however, is the one part of the movie where the seas need to be the exact opposite, raging, frightening and very, very surreal indeed. Now obviously the prospect of actually shooting these scenes in a stormy location is fraught with problems, making it logistically impractical. Shooting on water is difficult at the best of times, let alone the worst. So the solution was that we shot it in an outdoor tank at Movie World Studios, close to where a lot of the interiors were shot. A replica yacht was built and rigged in the tank on a moving gimbal with the actors aboard, all being pummeled by wave makers, rain machines, dump tanks, and a whole slew of special effects toys as the cameras rolled. But when we cut the sequence together, what was missing is something to give the sequence scope and scale. What we needed was some wider shots of the yacht on the stormy seas, which is where visual effects was mostly employed. There's a shot at the beginning of the sequence where the storm front is approaching the yacht. The speed and scale upon which it's hitting the crew is definitely extraordinary, but this was exactly the feeling that Chris Smith was after. So for that approach shot, it's based on a helicopter plate of the yacht and the actors shot on calm seas. We then tracked the shot to produce a matching camera for our CG software, which allowed us to model and animate 3D waves rushing towards and encircling the hapless crew. Several techniques were employed, producing different layers for the water foam, cresting peaks, as well as the rippled water surface itself. And for the storm front, again, it's a multi-layered approach using CG volumetric clouds, 2D rain and mist elements, and background matte paintings to complete the effect. Probably the biggest challenge was getting the sense of scale. It's a wide shot and has to feel like the storm was approaching them at an otherworldly speed while still maintaining a grounding in reality, albeit quite a stretched reality. There's some other wide shots in the movie where we actually used footage of the yacht and actors in the tank, which were then scaled down and comped onto a stormy ocean, as well as a fully CG yacht and sail when we didn't quite have the right camera angles from the footage. The sail itself was never built full height in the tank, so we replaced it with a fully CG sail, and this allowed us to control it with keyframed animation and cloth dynamics to match the physics of how the boat would ride in rough seas. I think these shots really give a sense of scale to the unfolding drama and cut really well with the tight footage of the actors above and below deck. The shot of the yacht capsizing was pretty fun and equally pretty challenging. There are some things that are really hard in CG, and breaking water is definitely one of them. We spent a long time watching countless surfing videos and wave footage to try and break down and simplify such a complicated series of events into discrete parts that we could emulate with the software. There are so many layers that go into this shot, from water surface shaders to particulate foam and spray, to breaking foam, to rising foam, to CG yacht, snapping masts, cloth dynamics, to dynamic wakes. It's all in there. In the end, it's such a huge shot and really powerful on the big screen. There's a little sequence in the movie which audiences always talk about, which is the shots of the body piles. The fundamental methodology behind achieving these shots actually isn't too complicated, but as with anything in visual effects, adding the fine touches and details is the craft that still takes patience and skill. We had about 15 extras dressed in the same outfit. We then form a body pile with the extras. The pile was then moved and the process repeated over and over again around the set. When you look at Melissa herself, remember that we're only using her element, and the people that she's walking around are just a guide for her. So then it's just a matter of cutting out all the body piles and combining them onto one picture to get the final effect. Some trained seagulls were then shot feeding on green screen that we then placed around the piles and comped in. The other thing we did to give some scale and scope to the movie was with the exterior liner shots and the corridors that we added. The exterior liner set was built on the end of a quite narrow C-spit. So to give the liner some scale and to stop it looking like they're just running around the same corridor, we created extended corridors in CG. There's one shot in particular where you're looking down the length of the ship at the tiny figures who've just boarded. The shot is all CG with just the shot plate scaled down and put right at the end of the corridor. It's one of my favourite shots as it really helps to give a sense of loneliness and isolation when they first board the liner.